What's the collusion fallout as it pertains to Kyler Murray, Michael Bidwill, and the Arizona Cardinals? Well, we asked the man who was part of breaking the scandal, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, and it's also a reunion. My guy Clancy's here filling in for Johnny Venerable. It's coming up right now on PHNX Cardinals. PHNX Cardinals. Go rock, hanging out with Clancy and I know that number one and or two. Our guy Noah making us sound look so good. What's going on, everybody in the chat? Hanging out with you here on a Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure wherever you're checking in, you're showing us some love here on PHNX Cards. Checking out the stream. We got our guy Shaft. People said my mic's not working. Let's check that. Let's check into that. Maybe settings issue. Clancy, you hearing me all right over there?
It's a little wonky, but not terrible.
A little wonky. Good to hear from you, my guy. Thanks for joining us. Plus, we've got K2. I see you, Tony, Jacob. All Damon dogs go to heaven. I like that. Mr. Fat Gangster, that boy, OD, Dee, G. Willikers, Snacks, Lance, Illa Dre, K2. So I wonder if we buy our mics from, is it Timo? I don't know what it is, but
Timu.
Hopefully we're figuring that out. Everybody's looking for a mic check here. But maybe it was just me botching the live, getting this thing going here. But Clancy, we start today's show kind of picking up the pieces from the report yesterday. More of like an NFL bombshell. I don't think it really impacts the Cardinals in the immediate future or down the road at all. It's 2 years removed from Kyler Murray inking that deal, 3 years nearly, inking a mega $1 million contract, $230.5 he's entering season 2 on. But you see it doesn't exactly paint the Cardinals in a great picture, including its president and owner, Michael Bidwill. What was your thoughts when you kind of saw the Pablo Torre finds out Mike Florio collaboration?
It was kind of like okay, there's some smoke, but what does it mean kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, my first thought was like, oh, Michael Bidwill's at it again. Like, what a historic run. Like, he's like, the Cardinals are trying to turn into a butterfly, and he's like this cocoon that won't let him go. Like, it's the craziest thing. But are you surprised? No. He's one of the cheaper owners in the NFL. We saw the homework clause, like him wanting to save money on that, specifically like that part, not surprising. The collusion part, I mean, there's smoke, but we don't know what the fire looks like yet, if there is going to be any.
We're gonna hear from Florio, and he's obviously dialed into this, and I think he's got more of a bone to pick with the league. It's players union. The Cardinals just happened to be the team that was on deck at the time to pay their quarterback. And I thought the silver lining from some of the leaked texts that were in the 61-page document even showed Bidwill saying it's like, thankfully we had a quarterback worth paying. And it goes against a lot of what people want to say the narrative is around the Cardinals owner and president about their franchise quarterback. But yet Kyler Murray's entering year 7, and there's a lot of confidence throughout the organization, including at the top at Bidwill, that they've got a guy in Kyler Murray that can take them to where they want to go. And it's also with this conversation of like what kind of kicked all this off was one of the worst deals in all of sports history, and all the first round picks and all the guaranteed money that the Cleveland Browns sent Houston, that the Cardinals had to be a part of fixing that problem. And, I don't think that, like, you can call it collusion. You can point the evidence to that. But as far as a fan of the NFL, I wasn't prepared. I don't think I'll ever be prepared, especially in a cap league where it's so imperative that you have workarounds to not have fully guaranteed massive quarterback contracts.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the second thing I thought was, wait, why is everybody looking at what everybody else is doing and not the idiocy that the Cleveland Browns did? Like, that's the thing. Like, these conversations are going to happen anyways. It's like, what the hell are they doing? This isn't ballers. This isn't Patrick Mahomes getting $250 million guaranteed that The Rock gave to him, which was like, do you remember that show, Ballers? Like, that was this thing that's like, it's never going to happen. It's like in a movie and, the whole thing. And it just happened a couple years later. Like, this is more of the exception to the idiot rule than what any other team would actually do. So that's why it's more of a much ado about nothing. I just don't know what other players who are not quarterbacks, with now the uprising of like seeing what their legal recourse could be. I don't know if it could be a money grab that the NFL would have to just pay, or if it's not going to get there. But it makes Michael Bidwill look like a dummy. The Dean Spanos thing isn't great. He's not valuing his players. He's only really overpaid one player in the history of his time, and that was number 11. But everybody else, has got the Cardinals discount.
Yeah, look, I mean, and also, like, when you think about Kyler Murray, who would be viewed as a victim here, right, is somebody that was taken advantage of by this collusion, and we'll talk about this with Florio. Like, Kyler Murray stands to, as long as he plays out this deal, to make every single dime of that contract, even though it's there where Bidwill says we're going to incentivize this thing, and I'm paraphrasing, so where he's going to have to earn his real money. But I think that was something that was probably something that before the Watson deal that Bidwill wanted to put his own stamp on this on quarterback contracts anyway. He's got the law background. I think he saw, like, it was just off season in and off season out. There was it was whoever was set to get paid, the number just increased, and people hadn't really kind of figured a way out to kind of change that deal. It was just kind of plug and play. It's like, okay, this guy this year made $225 million in total money. So this year it's going to be 228, and next year it's going to be 230. In the case of Kyler Murray, it goes from 230 to 230 and a half. So it's like, I think Bidwill was trying to look for a spin, and then it was like, okay, here's his bat signal. The league needs you to step up, and we need you to make sure that this is a non-guaranteed contract.
I think what happened with the Ravens looks way worse. I mean, this is just something, it's happenstance, it's timing, whatever it is. I think this is definitely just going to be something that's swept. We're not going to think about it unless, the NFLPA actually wants to do their job at some point and, stand up for their players better. Like, take a book out of MLBPA and actually make some noise. Other than that, like, NFL owners always win. This isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, I don't think.
No, I'm not. I think it's obviously, like, when you get into that kind of routine of you get bad press about this organization and you kind of get used to it and you kind of get a little numb to it. You just assume that, hey, this is going to be really bad. But at the end of the day, it's not the worst. It was, the entities, and sure, the owners are going to, they work separately, but at the same time, when it comes to financial implications, like they'll be like the Avengers, like it's like Endgame, and they're going to all come together when it comes down to the almighty dollar, and make sure that they're not going to have to be giving out fully guaranteed money when it's not when it's just like there's only not a true precedent to it, and they're just like, they can just pass it off as like, oh, Brown's gonna Browns, but it's like, but the rest of the league, this is how we do business. Okay. It's like, you got Steve Keim firing off text to Eric Burkhardt and saying, well, we're not going to be operating like that. But they got to a number 160, and then they got the train back on the tracks. And like, there is more to it. I saw in the chat, you guys are crushing it. Like, is from like a legal standpoint as far as this collusion case, and went on behind the scenes as far as the NFLPA and how they didn't act as the true advocate to the players in this situation, I think that's where this becomes an actual big story.
And that's the stuff we don't really know about yet. Like,
yeah,
a lot's going to come out. Like, I feel like it's just going to be like a landslide once it does. But yeah, like, there's malpractice all around. I agree. And you're right about the money. It's the, the good old boys club up top that have all the money, and, some are more generous and some are more, able to pay their employees. But like, this is just like with Michael Bidwill specifically, it's like, this is just another thing he's done that's bad, but not enough to force him to sell the team. Like he's just under that sweet spot of like anybody that wants Michael Bidwill to sell the team. He just does things heinous enough just to that line where it's not going to matter. Now with all the NFLPA stuff, like again, there's smoke. We don't know. Like, I don't feel comfortable. Like we have no idea. This could be on the precipice of something we've never seen before. So it's like, we don't know what the next steps are going to be. We don't know how loud the players can get. We don't know what actual movement they can make. Could it actually lead to a lockout? Like, those are like multiple steps down the road. We just need to know what was said, what the NFLPA didn't do. I mean, that's still, yet to be determined, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I do feel truly bad of is it's just another occurrence of this team is going in the right direction. The new regime that took over that has done everything right, especially as far as revamping the culture in the building in Tempe and in Glendale on game days and training camp next month. Guys like Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon continue to have to pay for the sins of their predecessors. Like it's the ghost of Keim continues to kind of haunt that building, that facility. Now 3 years almost down the line, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Luckily I'm on this show. I gave a moratorium. I'm no longer speaking about Steve Keim on mine. Cause like, here's the thing, like for the majority of the last season and a half, 2 seasons, he was part of the plot because he was the mess. He left the mess that Monty Ossenfort had to pick up. And now you're right. Like, there are little sprinkles that Stevie Baby he was so bad at his job, Bo. Yeah. Like, these things just remind you of like, oh, this is what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the toxic one was. And it was just like, they're fighting. They're trying to swim downhill, but they don't know which way is downhill. Bidwill, Steve Keim didn't like, and even now, Michael Bidwill just doesn't. He's fighting against himself to get to just a rational and comfortable spot, and he can't get out of his own way. He thinks he plays by his own rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bidwill is now in a better place. Obviously, he has, I think, really intelligent and strong leadership as far as the guys, calling the shots as far as his team goes. Where, I was talking to Donnie Druin, who was the guest special co-host yesterday. And to me, it feels like it was either myself or I knew kids in my class who couldn't be in the same class together, right? They were just a menace to everybody else, including the teachers. And it felt like the Bidwill Keim duo was that, but like you get Bidwill in a different setting with some, high achievers and some, really good kids or people in this case, he's going to fit in he can fit in as well, right? Where before it's just like, oh man, look out for Bidwill and Keim. That's just bad news coming your way.
As they're watching film after game days with Cliff and Kyler, like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah, because regardless of what he's done, the heinous stuff, the allegations, everything outside, the report cards, all that stuff, since firing Cliff and Keim, he's done everything he said he was going to do. So you got to give him credit for it. Like, he's done everything. They're paying players. He's giving Monty Ossenfort the reins. Like, I always allude back to the draft day clip before they drafted Darius Robinson when Monty was like 4 picks away, 3 picks away. And Michael Bidwill was going up to him like, so what are you thinking? Like, he still didn't know what Monty Ossenfort was going to do. Like, I describe it as he's on the inside looking in still. So he's not the only guy, but he's obviously the owner, and he's still kind of on the outside a little bit, letting the football minds do their thing. And yeah, I mean, you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, no, it's they've come a long way as an organization, and I think him taking a bit of a step back after all the noise that was surrounding this organization that kind of hit a fever pitch, I think, in 2022 that led into Keim unceremoniously walking away and Cliff being fired, and then them pivoting for the first time in 3 decades to outside the organization, especially at the GM spot with Ossenfort, turned out to be the best move he could possibly make. It was a really good move for us to get Clancy on the pod today. He's hanging out with us. We got Florio coming up here in a few minutes as well. But also, we're thinking about who's the most irreplaceable player for the Arizona Cardinals entering the 2025 season. Who could they do without? I will say this. There is one catch to this. It's Kyler Murray's exempt from this conversation because, Clancy, what do we know, right? No Kyler Murray, they don't go where they want to go, right? Even though it's a polarizing figure, there's a lot of back and forth in the chat right now. You guys continue to kill it. But it's the Kyler Murray exempt conversation, who the Cardinals can't stand to lose in 2025. It's all coming up here on PHNX Cardinals. It's heating up right now. The weather, absolutely. You got a smart thermostat that's going to help you cool down your dwelling and do it at a real cost-efficient way. Well, APS is going to help you out. Smart thermostats for as low as $0. That's right. It'll cost you nothing but shipping, I think, to get yourself a smart thermostat. What are you doing at this point? It's going to help you manage your energy bills. Smart thermostats can work with APS to plan and maximize comfort and convenience when minimizing your energy costs, because you just see that energy bill just go skyrocket this time of year here, living in the Valley of the Sun. If you're on an APS time of use plan, you can use your smartphone device and automatically adjust the thermostat to take advantage of the low-cost off-peak hours. It's unbelievable. APS customers are eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in their APS Cool Rewards program. Check it out right now. Find instant rebates, discounts, and special offers for smart thermostats, energy-efficient appliances, and more at marketplace.aps.com. That's marketplace.aps.com. Must be APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for all the information. Also, you got to check out what's going on with our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Wild Horse Passes were the site of our last 2 draft parties. We also do post-game shows there. I love Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. Plus, they've got other locations. You got to check them out. They got the best sports books around, plus table games. Anything you can ask for, they've got right there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you. You achieve legendary status while you're there. Bet, watch, win. BetMGM Sportsbooks at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Big screens, great food on top of the events. Like you got the NBA draft tonight. Why not tap in there and go watch those prospects fly off the board? Hopefully a couple to the Suns here in the first round at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check them out right now. You do you. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playGila.com for more details. My guy Clancy was, can this be public knowledge? You were just a warrior on the tables. You went to a poker tournament in Sin City.
Yeah, I did. It was fun. It was fun. It was a good experience. I don't do
you
it
made
all.
it to the second round, right?
I did. Yeah, it was a fun experience for sure.
And then you got bullied by Phil Ivey or who? Daniel Negreanu? Which Marco Pro told you to take a hike. This is the big leagues, kid.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate couldn't get out of it situation. Unfortunate, but yeah.
We've hung out a long time. We've obviously worked professionally for a long time. We hang out beyond this, but we haven't played cards together. I didn't know you were such a shark.
I'm not. I'm not. It was the beauty for a long term is you just work during it. You give yourself something to do for 12 hours, so you're not forcing the issue. I mean, I think my biggest issue with you Bo and I, for those that don't know. We had, 2 years? It was either 1 year or 2 years, or 1 year may have been enough. March Madness, 9 a.m., Coach House. For those that live in Phoenix, that was like a magical – that's my one day where I act like a college student is the first day of March Madness. That was my bet, dude. That was like epic times, Yeah. And then families and stuff and then work and, receding hairlines. It's just not the same.
Some of us grew up, and some of us are still Peter Pan playing poker
Some of us are
tournaments.
Lost Boys.
Trying to stop the clock. Well, look, it's great to have you here on the show. It makes me sick to be so kind to you and generous, but it is fun to catch up. I tasked you when we were preparing for this show to give me who you thought should be the most irreplaceable Arizona Cardinal, with Kyler Murray being exempt going into 2025. I think if we had this conversation last year, and I think we did, maybe Johnny and I did, a lot of us did point to BJ Ojulari. Mm-hmm. And the worst of all realities happened in training camp, where BJ was lost for the season with the knee injury. Obviously, look, injuries are a part of the game, but just looking at it overall, roster-wise, when you look at the new additions, when you look at carryovers from the previous 2 seasons, what do you view as kind of the most important part, where they don't have a place where they could stand to lose anybody, and maybe who would you identify as the most irreplaceable guy on this roster?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Because, like, I'm going to go with not a normal, easy Buda Baker name. And it's not because I'm like, oh, let's think of something different. It's like, I thought about it like this. Like, say anybody were to go down, obviously you knock on wood, you don't want anybody to get injured regardless if you're a team or not. Say James Conner gets hurt. Trey Benson has shown that he can be okay. They could add a piece. Say Buda Baker goes down. Jalen Thompson, Adrian Taylor, Demerson could be okay. This cornerback room is okay. If somebody were to go down. Like, for me, it's Calais, and there's a reason behind it. Like, on the field stuff, sure, he's pushing 40, okay, but they've got Josh Sweat, they've got Baron Browning, they've got Darius Robinson, they've got Dalvin Tomlinson, they've got BJ Ojulari, as you mentioned, they've got Zaven Collins, they've got dudes. The Cardinals have done so much with less with Nick Rallis that having Calais Campbell as being like the pillar of the defense, there's like one dude in the NFL that could take over like the leadership role from Buda Baker on this defense, and it could just inherently be Calais Campbell because of his history with the team. Walter Payton, Man of the Year, could be that every year. Like, he's the perfect dude to usher in this like next regime for the Cardinals, even if he only plays for a year. So that's why I see him as irreplaceable, not necessarily in the most concrete sense, but definitely in the abstract, and he can still play.
Yeah, not in, are you going to be a productive defensive line sense, but I can see it as far as, just what he does that transcends the playing field, what he could provide a very young group outside of himself and Dalvin Tomlinson. But, I think on the playing field too, like, Calais is still, as far as a run defender, he's still playing at a very high clip. Mm-hmm. And, the Cardinals, they did very well down the stretch in the final 6 games, but at points, especially the Carolina game, where it was so important, they couldn't stop the run. Calais Campbell is something that factors into that. I don't disagree with that. I think Calais Campbell is a great pick. Defensively, I think also Josh Sweat does play into it a little bit. I mean, I do know that they've got the horses, they've got, the options, but I think as far as just proven pass rush commodities, I think Josh Sweat is probably the only guy that you can say, hey, that's him. Mine, a little bit different. I mean, I was much like you. I looked at position groups that couldn't stand to lose from the top. And I look at a very top-heavy position group. It's the wide receiver room. I've got Marvin Harrison Jr. as my top irreplaceable Arizona Cardinal. And yes, we did note Kyler Murray exempt from this debate. I just think you lose Marvin Harrison Jr., and even with what was looked at as underwhelming to the standards, maybe the unfair standards that we had set going into his rookie year, but the expectations that we're equally placing on him in year 2. Think about a wide receiver core without Marv, and it looks a little bleak to me, Clancy.
Yeah, and I did think about him too, and it makes sense. Like, but to me, he's still, and like, this isn't something that like, old dogs can't learn new tricks or whatever. I thought he was, when he got drafted, I'm like, okay, he's gonna be the third option. He's the third option. And it's something that with James Conner and Trey McBride, it's not a knock on him. It's more, well, who are you going to overtake? Like, you're not overtaking James Conner, obviously running back in a run first offense. You're not overtaking Trey McBride, who's in line to be all pro for the rest of his career. Like, Marv has to take it from Trey. And if they're 1-1A this year, the Cardinals are going to win a lot of games. So that's why I kind of moved away. It's like, well, 900 receiving yards, say it's 1,000 or 1,100, whatever it's this year. He's going to have more touchdowns. Yeah, like I looked at it, but Trey McBride's still the alpha. He's still the dude. So that's why I kind of was like, it's pass catchers. It's not technically wide receivers, but it's pass catchers. And that's why I kind of went somewhere else. But you're right. I mean, you're not putting Michael Wilson and Zay Jones and Greg Dortch in there and having them produce the way that Marv would if it was on.
Well, yeah, it looks a lot like it did at the end of 2023, where it was, Greg Dortch sprinkled in, but it was just Trey McBride. It was, Michael Wilson sprinkled in. But your wide receiver core, your starting wide receiver core would probably have Zay Jones play the X, and then you've got Dortch and Wilson as your other two complementary pieces. You're just complementing Zay Jones, or you're hoping that, I think Michael Wilson takes on not the burden, but the opportunity to kind of be the top receiver in this offense, and it's just that doesn't strike a whole lot of fear into opposing defenses. Maybe it gives you an advantage to where they're not doubling your X any longer, right? Maybe, who knows what that would do? Would it open up some things? Or maybe they focus on Trey McBride and try to take him out of the game. But I just don't think that you could lose Marv. And I look at it from not only what he did with the close to 900 yards, but what he's projected to do here in 2025. So those are our top players that we find irreplaceable. We got some updates as far as Trey McBride at Tight End University, not just Trey McBride, but his other position group player or teammates that are there as well. We'll get into that conversation. But coming up next, Clancy, I talked with Mike Florio about this scandal that him and Pablo Torre broke and unveiled yesterday. We're going to hear the fallout and the ramifications from Mr. Pro Football Talk himself, Mike Florio, coming up next here on PHNX Cardinals. Oh, man. Yeah, Florio coming up here in just a second, but I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Love Game Time. You got the FIFA World Cup games coming up. You got the NBA in the rearview mirror, of course, but Major League Baseball. I believe the Diamondbacks are coming back home to take on the Fish, the Marlins. You can get great tickets right now. I'm sure the Chase Field to see the Snakes play against the Marlins, and then some with Game Time. Go to some concerts, go to some comedy shows, whatever you want with our friends over at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. It's Game Time. Terms apply. Again, create that account. Use the redeem code PHNX. You get $20 off. You're already saving so much money, but also you're going to be able to save some more just by being a listener, a viewer of this program. Also, you can buy parking passes on Game Time as well. It's not just exclusive to getting you into the event. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time. Also, got to tell you about our friends over at VMe. Clancy, have you heard about VMe? It's a betting app. It's anyone, anything, anytime. You got a wager you want to put down with somebody, but you're afraid you're going to have to go chase them after you inevitably beat them in that event. Well, VMe is going to take that heavy lifting out of it. They're a proud partner of PHNX and launching a brand new way to bet. Wagers can be for money or for free. It could be for bragging rights as well, and it's going to be just compiled right there in one place. VMe. Check them out. Bet on anything. Sports, video games, fantasy matchups, poker. How about push-up contests? Who chugs faster? Money on the line, VMe time. Check them out right now. 1v1 group challenges. VMe's for you. Check it out. We're going to be doing some great things here on PHNX Cardinals. We're always talking and roasting each other, and we're going to be putting people to the test with VMe. No more chasing cash. Check them out right now. Download the VMe app today. Play using the code PHNX. Available in the App Store, Google Play, VMe. Anyone, anytime, anything. Oh, man. Love it. Let's get to the Florio conversation, if we don't mind. Noah's getting that locked and loaded. Arizona Cardinals.
And then Clancy and I will wrap up this edition of PHNX Cardinals here on the other side. But got to sit down and talk to Florio for about 15 minutes today, figuring out the fallout and how it pertains to the Cardinals after this scandal broke yesterday.
Arizona Cardinals at the center of an NFL collusion case. We continue to follow this story with One of the men responsible for breaking it and breaking down all the evidence of it, Mike Florio. Check him out, of course, PFT Live, Mr. Pro Football Talk himself. Check out his books on sale right now at Amazon. Father of Mine, Son of Mine. Fantastic reads for you. The cheap price, Mike, of 99 cents. And, I was telling you off air, I was blown away by you and Pablo Torre in the investigation and how you kind of told us about this unbelievable story, the 61-page doc. Fantastic work. Even the table read that you guys did where you role-played, and he was Michael Bidwill and you were Dean Spanos.
Yeah, I wanted to be Bidwell. He had more lines, but I didn't get to choose. I didn't even know we were doing it until it happened, so I didn't get much of a choice in that. It really was. And first of all, I appreciate, number one, that people are interested in this and understand the importance of the topic. And number two, thanks for the chance to talk to you. But it was a lot of fun. It was very rewarding because I had been trying for months to get this document to see the light of day. And I could not understand for the life of me why it was hidden and how it could be hidden, how it could be kept from the members of the union, including the players who were the centerpieces of this arbitration. It was astounding to me. So I'm glad Pablo answered the call because I was screaming, somebody needs to get this, somebody needs to get this. And he and I eventually had a friendly competition to see who could get it first. And he got it. And I'm glad he did.
Yeah, and then we got to see the duo of you kind of lay this out, the 61-page docs, and just kind of go through it. I thought it was reminiscent of, it was like a mix between Serial, the podcast from way back when, and the NFL, two things that I'm big fans of, and just kind of hearing it go for an hour and 5 minutes was fantastic. When we look at this, you've got Cardinals owner Michael Bidwill's involvement. You called it collusion in action. And when we start to look at the Cardinals' role, you can't get away from how pivotal it was and how it played into this investigation. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, and we have to understand the context. And first of all, and I think this is a failure of the NFLPA, not just recently, but over the years, to not make sure fans understand how this works. And I'm not saying they haven't tried. They failed to get them to understand how it works. The NFL franchises are 32 independent businesses. They are not branches of the same tree. They are 32 separate trees. There was a U.S. Supreme Court case back in 2010. It's called the American Needle case. And it stands for the proposition that the NFL is not a single integrated enterprise. It is 32 independent businesses. And because of that, they easily can create antitrust liability. They have a couple of exemptions. Because of their labor union, it's called a multi-employer bargaining unit. They've got an exemption for antitrust liability when it comes to franchise tag and the draft and minimum salaries and maximum salaries and everything. It's all part of this limited antitrust exemption. But we think that it's okay for them to lock arms and do whatever they want to do. They are competing independent businesses. And when you understand that, and when you realize that the spark for all of this was that after the union failed in two different CBA sessions, 2011 and 2020, to get fully guaranteed contracts for all players, when the Browns gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract in March of 2022, the rest of the league lost their minds. Specifically, the league office lost their minds and said, hey, teams, we got to stop this. Now, somehow the NFL won because the arbitrator believed that the rest of the evidence, the circumstantial evidence of, to use your term, collusion in action, and I guess it was my term as well, I don't remember it, but it sounds good, I'll take it. But the whole week's been a blur with activity and trying to understand this. And one of the reasons it's been so frenetic, we look at that exchange between Michael Bidwill and Dean Spanos, and it's obvious. It's obvious. Like, as I said on social media, the CEO of Coke doesn't call the CEO of Pepsi to congratulate the CEO of Pepsi of getting a key employee signed to a compensation arrangement that's going to help the CEO of Coke. They never talk about it. They're competitors. Right. And this, to me, that brief exchange is so instructive on how the sausage truly gets made. They are locked arm, colluding, resisting the trend, fighting back against the fully guaranteed contract, and celebrating their victories when they do.
Yeah, and also involved is Steve Keim. There was text revealed between Bidwill and Keim about the Watson contract and how they were going to approach Kyler Murray's eventual $230.5 million, not non-fully guaranteed, about $160 guaranteed, and that I mean, it's not a buyer's group like you see with several different owners where they get together and they just, they talk about tricks of the trade and how, they can improve their business sales. And I mean, this is completely different, especially when they want to present it as something being different, as them 32 different entities. It's really fascinating. How do you think this could potentially impact Bidwill, if at all?
I don't think it matters to Bidwill per se. Now, Kyler Murray's next contract negotiation could be interesting. Other key players that they draft and develop could be interesting. I think this is more bigger picture. What will other players do now that they see what's out there and that they understand that there was an ignored mandate from the NFL Management Council to keep guaranteed money down in these veteran contracts? Because if I'm a player who, let's say earlier this year, signed a contract and I wanted it fully guaranteed and they said, no, we don't do that, and I know there was a mandate or an encouragement from the NFL to not do it, I'd potentially file a grievance. So the NFL could have more of these that they have to deal with. The flip side is the union may have a problem, because one of the consequences of hiding this for 5.5 months, there's a 50-day window under the collective bargaining agreement for filing what's called a non-injury grievance. So if a quarterback had realized the day after this decision came out that maybe he has rights, and if he tries to pursue them, the door may be slammed in his face because the union squatted on this thing long enough to extinguish his rights. And if that's the case, then the union has liability to the player under the theory of breach of the duty of fair representation that every union has to its members. So it all comes down to how motivated the players are. I'm told that several of them have been talking to people about their options. Whether that leads to action, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, there's an article up at ProFootballTalk.com right now where players, as you wrote and reported, that they're exploring their options there. When we look at this as far as how the NFLPA and their role in this, and JC Tretter and this strange hiring process of their executive director, with utilizing your sources, do you get a sense that the players trust the NFLPA and feel like they're their number one advocate in this, or is there some maybe distrust after all this has been released?
I believe, based upon everything I've seen in the couple of years that have passed since, and it was 2 years ago this month, Lloyd Howell just emerged as the new executive director. The secretive process, super secret. No one even knew who the other candidates were. I think what's happened is there is a collective apathy among the members of the NFL Players Association that previously the owners have used against them, because at the end of the day, the players are never going to take a work stoppage. They're not going to do it. They tried it in 1987. It failed. And the widespread thought since then is the players don't want to miss a game check. They don't want to miss a game. The other side of it is, as it relates to the union, they don't care. They're not engaged. And I think their apathy was weaponized against them by a small group of individuals who saw this as a way to capitalize and to take advantage of the situation. And what's strange about it is it's very easy to get football players to believe they're under attack when someone from the outside is attacking those who are ostensibly leading them, when the reality is they should be attacking these people as well. The voices on the outside have their best interests at heart, but there's a pride factor that's involved, and this is human nature. This isn't just football players, and people don't like to admit they made a mistake. So will the players, will the executive committee, will the board of player representatives ever do anything that would suggest to the world, maybe we screwed up by hiring Lloyd Howell? Maybe we screwed up by allowing him to put JC Tretter in this new position that never existed before of chief strategy officer. And within the union, they believe Tretter's trying to set himself up to be the next executive director. So it all comes down to what the players are willing to do and whether they can get to the point where they care. Do they care? That's the real question. Are you going to be like the fans who are like, we don't care, we just want football? Are the players going to be, we don't care, we just want football?
You know, the three quarterbacks at the center of this, Kyler, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, what do we know as far as the agents' roles in these negotiations and kind of their willingness to wave the white flag as far as giving up on guaranteed money?
Well, first of all, Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent, so
True.
he was involved in the negotiations directly with Eric DeCosta of the Ravens. And at the end of the day, DeCosta thought as the 2023 draft was approaching and he was going to have to go get a quarterback, he thought that Lamar wasn't going to be back. And he made one last offer to Jackson, and he took it to his surprise as he testified within the confines of this collusion grievance. As to the other two, hey, if the team is just telling you it's a non-starter, we're not doing a Deshaun Watson contract, then you just have to do the best deal you can if you want to get a deal done. And remember, Eric Burkhardt, who represents Kyler Murray, badly wanted to do a deal. He did that manifesto, single spaced. You needed a magnifying glass to read it. And there are all those other things that came up with the homework term and all of that. And at the end of the day, and here's the other side of it, and this is what makes the Deshaun Watson contract so strange. Someone told me years ago, and this is absolutely right, true franchise quarterbacks, they declare early in their careers that they are franchise quarterbacks, and they continue to be until they retire. Now, there'll be some slippage for some, but that's about the time to retire. You start at 23 and you go into your mid to late 30s, if not 40s, as a franchise quarterback. You don't need a guaranteed contract. I believe in past years, guys like Peyton Manning traded guarantees for cash because you're not going to cut me. Now, they ultimately did because he was injured, but then boom, he lands somewhere else. So franchise quarterbacks don't need to worry about guarantees the same way that the other players do.
Yeah, we've always heard that once the Cardinals got to that number, $230.5 million, Kyler and his representation signed off on it right away. You're going to give me that type of money. We're not going to. We're confident that we'll see every single dime of that.
He's making the bet that they're not going to cut him. And most of these guys will make the bet that they're not going to get cut once they get past those first 2-3 years in most cases where the team has no choice but to keep the guy around.
Evidence points to collusion, but when you put your kind of your talk show hat on, your fan hat, when you look at just the Watson deal, the market correction, was it necessary? I mean, for powers that be come together and push back on that?
Well, I think the Deshaun Watson transaction, the trade and the contract taken together was the single worst move any NFL team has ever made.
Right.
Because lost in the 5-year, $230 million contract is the fact that the Browns gave up 3 first-round picks and more. And those could have become core, cheap, young players who develop into the nucleus of the team going forward. 3 first-round picks gone for a guy who's given them nothing in return. I mean nothing in return. So it wasn't correct. Now look, if he'd been Lamar Jackson, I don't know, would it have spread the concept of guaranteed contracts? But at the core, this is all about collective bargaining. We have managed to get the union to not achieve guaranteed contracts for all players at the bargaining table when it's management versus labor. And once the fire starts with Deshaun Watson, are you going to allow the fire to spread or are you going to put it out? That's what this was. And the meeting in late March of 2022 was about telling the teams, the fire is lit and we need to put it out. Oh, but they didn't follow the advice. Oh, but there's been no fully guaranteed contract for a veteran quarterback since then. The next one, Kyler Murray, and that was the key. That was the first one. Yeah. And I remember my mindset back then. Okay, Deshaun Watson's gotten this 5-year fully guaranteed contract. This is a sea change. Let's see. Chris Berman used to say once is an accident, twice is a trend. Let's see if it becomes a trend. Murray, the owners held the rope.
Yeah.
Wilson, the owners held the rope. Jackson, the owners held the rope. And the Watson deal ended up being an aberration, just like they wanted. So it's not a market correction. They just were able to hold the rope in that game of tug of war to keep these contracts from spreading. I
always got the sense that Bidwill, even before the Watson contract, wanted to put his own stamp on the quarterback contract when it came to Murray. And you saw that, the fallout.
Well, the homework clause. I mean, what a mistake. That's just an unforced error.
Yeah.
And
luckily amended
that. And there's
a
quote
quickly.
In there about the incentives. We want it to be a lot of incentives, and he's going to have to earn it. Yeah.
Really strange case. And look, I mean, his partner in crime and all that, Steve Keim, no longer with the organization. Feels like they're in better hands with Monty Ossenfort. Had a banner off season. But are the days of the bad news entering the news cycle from that era of Cardinals football? Are we confident that they might be coming to an end soon?
Well, bad teams stay bad because of the people at the very top. And I don't need to run through the litany of controversies and allegations involving Michael Bidwill. It didn't rise to the level of Daniel Snyder. And I've made the comment in the past that maybe some Cardinals fans should hope it did, because when it does, what happens? You get a different owner. And there's always a risk if you drop a house on the Wicked Witch of the East, the Wicked Witch of the West is going to be even worse. But that's the fundamental problem with being a professional sports fan. You are stuck with ownership until they die or sell the team. You're stuck with them. And the and look, I follow the patterns all throughout the league. Bad teams stay bad because their dysfunction is flowing from the top. And the challenge is, and there are some teams that fall into this category, they can be competitive despite the dysfunction. If you get a really good GM and a really good coach, they can short circuit, they can bypass the dysfunction from the owner. And the way Jason Garrett, the former coach of the Cowboys, puts it is, one of the challenges for any coach and GM is how to manage up. You always manage down. How do you manage up? How do you keep your owner from screwing everything up? And there are, and I could rattle off the teams, there are teams where you got to ask yourself, how can the owner and how will the owner once again screw things up? So if they can keep Michael Bidwill from screwing things up, then they can be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Austin Fort Gannon, their hands are all over this rebuild as they enter a pivotal year 3. And I selfishly want to ask you a question as far as the Cardinals going into 2025. What are your expectations for this team? It seems like it's a pivotal year for Kyler Murray, but also most parties involved. What do you see from this team as they kind of get out of the ugly days of a rebuild?
I think it's wide open. I think they're one of those teams where there isn't that burden of high expectation. And that can be a problem because everybody tells you how great you are. So the coach has to worry about guys having big heads. And then if you lose 3 of your first 4 games, all of a sudden you panic, right? I'd rather be a team that no one expects much of, because then you don't have guys who think that they're better than they are and they've accomplished something when they haven't. And you could also use, if Jonathan Gannon chooses to, this idea that people are not believing in us. Nobody believes in us. The thing that helps the Cardinals this year is the schedule rotation. 8 of the games are against the teams of the AFC South and the NFC South. Those are wins that can be potentially chalked up one after another. They're better games. It's a better draw than it was last year for the teams of the NFC West. The problem is the other 3 teams play those same 8 opponents. The challenge is going to be in the division. Can they beat the Rams? Can they beat the 49ers? Can they handle the Seahawks? And how you do in those 6 games is probably going to be the thing that determines whether or not the Cardinals can get back to the postseason.
Unbelievably generous with your time. And really appreciated the conversation and enjoyed the podcast yesterday. Pablo Torre finds out. Highly encourage everybody checks it out. Him and Mike Florio break down this NFL collusion case. And also check out PFT Live. I love listening to you and Sims. Turn it on NBC radio on channel 85 there on Sirius XM on a daily basis. I love the banter, the back and forth. It's fantastic. And then Father of Mine, Son of Mine, Amazon. Go get that book, 99 cents, the digital copy.
Ebook, please mention ebook. People
That's
think
right.
that I'm
digital ebook, whatever it may be. You can get
Paper
it though at 99 cents.
Free. Paper ain't free. 99 cents for the ebook. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Likewise. Take care, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Fascinating stuff from Mike Florio, getting into the collusion. Still, look, not the biggest fan of Michael Bidwill is Mike Florio. But look, I mean, he outlined it, understands the schedule as far as how it lines up for the Cardinals here, and there's opportunity for them to take advantage of it in 2025. We debrief, but also Cardinals tight end Trey McBride in his room there in Nashville, hanging out at Tight End University. The latest from the Cardinals' top playmaker. We'll get into it here on PHNX Cardinals. Trey McBride, bright future, needs some shady rays, hanging out there in the sun. Got to check it out. When you realize that you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, and the roof of your car, the gas station 3 states away, well, Shady Rays is going to be there to back you up. They have an unbelievable protection program. These sunglasses, they're made for real life. They're seriously good looking. They're polarized. They're durable, and they're not stupidly expensive. When you lose them, sure, you got the opportunity to get them back. They've got a great No guilt trip, just replacements headed your way. But look, these are sunglasses, premium polarized shades that you can get at not a premium price, well under the price point of $100. But man, they look fantastic. Wear your sunglasses without fear. Get scratched, get them banged up, you can get them replaced. Shady Rays Eyewear always has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head over to shadyrays.com. Use the code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shady Rays, shadyrays.com. Last partner we want to tell you about today, Mountain America Credit Union, double rewards through July 31st. Check them out. 2 times rewards on rewards credit card purchases. Mountain America Credit Union committed to helping more than 1 million members, hundreds of branches throughout the West. Get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases through July 31st. That means Mountain America Rewards card will watch the points pile up. Perfect for gas, groceries, travel, home projects, and other purchases. This promotion, easy way to stretch your dollar. And since you earn twice as many rewards, redeem your double points and rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, and event tickets. Limited time only. Take advantage while you can. Details, macu.com/double. That's macu.com/double. Loans approved on credit. Offer can change without and be withdrawn at any time. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. All right, we're back live. PHNX Cardinals. Clancy in the house. Check him out at Clancy's Corner on Twitter. Of course, the podcast Locked On Cardinals. Of course, he was the OG, but he and we took it, I think, to the next level, and then he took it back down once I exited that podcast. But any thoughts post interview with Florio? I think I saw you maybe nod off a few times, but anything you catch up in between?
Yeah, first notification. Your jokes have just gotten terrible. I don't know what Johnny has to work with here, bro. Like, I lifted your ability to make people laugh. It is just cratering. So with Florio, like, he says what we've said. Remember, we used to get a lot of flack for being negative a lot. I did. Like, the first couple years, 2016, 2017, 2018, when we were doing it, it's like he just said what we used to say back then. He's a bad owner. They're running things the wrong way. It's obvious to everybody else. Why is it not obvious to him? So that's the thing that I took most from him, is like, this is just another amalgamation of Michael Bidwill being Michael Bidwill. Whether it's with other organizations colluding or not, whether it's Kyler Murray and the homework clause or not, Eric Burkhart, like, it's just, it's been a comedy of errors forever. And what's the part of the brain that's responsible for learning in the hippocampus? Dude, he needs to get his hippocampus. Like, how much bad short-term memory and long-term memory do you need to have to not understand that things need to be run differently? That's that's the one thing I don't really understand, why everybody understands it except for him.
I thought Hippocampus was just an alternative rock band, but look, here you go, bringing it to our audience in our podcast, and look, I appreciate that. But I think that Bidwill, like I said in the first segment, I think when he's surrounded by smart people and he's doing what he can do best and set them up for success with his financials and give them what they need. That's the way he can best serve this franchise. Like, when he said way back when he took over the reins of the organization from his father, who was far more polarizing in the way he kind of tightened things up and the way the organization used to run. And then Bidwill said he's going to run it his way, and he's dead set on winning a championship, just like what's going on with the basketball team in town, like the Ishbia. Like, you can say that to your blue in the face, but there's a way that you have to learn to run an organization successfully and find consistent success. And I think he trusted the wrong people for far too long, that the main person being Keim. But now with Austin Fort in place and Jonathan Gannon in place, and everything that I've heard as far as Bidwill goes now, he's doing everything he can to help them, aid them, and put them in a position for success. So I think finally in a spot where he can really kind of play his role the best. Like, if his role is just setting those guys up and then going and playing politician type guy when the Super Bowl's in town and all those other things, then that's fine. And hopefully stay out of the headlines as far as the negative ones.
Be good at signing checks, bro. That's it. That's what an owner's job should be. You're the financier. That's it. Like, obviously, it has been in the Bidwill name for decades. Obviously, respect to his dad, and down the line, even though the dysfunction has been real pretty much since they won a championship before the NFL existed. Like, this is what it's been, and I don't think the eerie part about this is, like, he did change since the end of 2022. He's officially changed. Okay, things haven't, like, we've seen things move in the right direction, but it's really going to, well, when there's adversity, like now there's expectations in 2025. You got to win 10 games. You probably got to make the playoffs. If the 49ers didn't have such an easy schedule, you probably have higher odds to win the NFC West. When adversity hits, what are they going to do with Kyler Murray if it doesn't work? What are they going to do in 2 years when they need to pay everybody who they drafted? That's when Michael Bidwill is really going to have his feet to the fire and be like, maybe I've changed, or it's like, nope, we're not paying everybody. I'm going to be the same way forever. I don't care about winning. I care about the bottom line. Here's another example of that. We just don't know because there hasn't been any pressure on them to produce as an organization the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. One of the he stepped up as far as the Cardinals' ability this offseason to get ahead of and retain one of their drafted and developed stars. Trey McBride made him for a hot second the top paid tight end in NFL history, signing him to that lucrative extension. Trey McBride's been out there along with Tip Ryman and Elijah Higgins, Higgy Bear, at tight end U, which I think had a Taylor Swift appearance and impromptu concert the other day. There's lots of hijinks coming out of Tight End University, which has become one of the kind of the signature moments of each and every offseason. But there was an interview that he did with Dan Orlovsky at Tight End University where he said this. This is from Trey McBride. This was off of some advice he was received from Travis Kelce. He said, make sure your quarterbacks are on the same page. He plays with a little freedom. Him and Mahomes have a connection. And I kind of took that as, why can't Kyler and I have that same connection? So taking and seeing the most successful tight end and quarterback duo, maybe in NFL history, and saying, that's what I want for myself with my quarterback, Kyler Murray. It's just, you can't really go wrong with trying to emulate what was going on in KC, Alex.
Yeah, but what really unlocked Travis Kelce was Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and dudes who did things completely differently than what Travis Kelce's done. Travis Kelce may be, like, with Gronk, he used to run over people. Tony Gonzalez would run over people. Like, Travis Kelce was never the fastest. He was never the strongest. He had great hands, and he knew his angles better than most. And that's what made him great. But the yin-yang thing with him and Tyreek Hill, it's like, which type of pass catcher do you want to stop? Because we got them all. But yeah, with Trey McBride, like, you just, like, if he has 130 catches next year, I'm not going to see that as a good thing for this offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he has the same numbers as he did last year with, quadruple the amount of touchdowns, you give him 110 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns, I'd much rather have that than him being the absolute need at pass catcher. It's a beautiful thing to see. He'd win All-Pro. He'd be everything, but I think that would be the sign of a broken offense still.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, he and Kyler, like, he's always open. You've always wanted a guy who's always been open since Fitz. He's always open.
Yeah, you create that pick your poison. It benefits all offenses. You thought you were going to get that from day one, but unfortunately it took a little bit more, mature, like marinating there as far as the development and the rapport between QB1 and wide receiver 1. The Tyreek Hill thing is interesting because he provided the explosives downfield, which this offense, as far as the Cardinals, was devoid of that last year. So in order to really kind of unlock the entire thing, the downfield passing explosives have to come back to this offense in 2025. And I think you'll see some sort of, you'll see that. And it's either going to be, hopefully not just on the outside with, some go balls for Marvin Harrison Jr. and like low percentage throws. It's more like, hey, can we get this guy in a position, more rhythm in this passing game, utilize those crossing routes, utilize, the entire route tree for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. It wasn't just Trey McBride benefiting from Travis Kelce out there. We also have is this a screen cap from, look at old Tip Ryman, just like a sponge, just learning from Travis Kelce, showing him some route running techniques. Don't call him just a run blocking tight end any longer, Clancy.
Dude, like, here's the thing. There's two different ways this can go in 2025. I love it. Like, that was kind of like a F them picks pick. We joked about that because they had 4 third-round picks that year. It's like, well, why not? But
right.
If you can turn Trey McBride into just Jimmy Graham, where he doesn't have to block, and you have a dude where it doesn't even have to be in just heavy sets. Like, if you can split them and have Trey McBride run all the routes and have Tip Ryman block for Trey McBride, like, that's one way it could go. Or if you need pass catchers, like you've said this a lot, like Elijah Higgins used to be a wide receiver. Like, they've got dudes who can catch passes in the tight end room. It's not Charles Clay anymore.
Right.
Like, they've got guys. So, I'm fascinated to see what happens with this offense. But yeah, Tip, dude. He's just a dude, man. And it's Travis Kelce. It's like, he's celebrity status to like 90% of the tight ends in the league.
Oh, it has to be surreal there if you're Tip Ryman and you're like, I went from South Dakota to, playing at Illinois to now I'm standing feet from one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history. And he's telling me the ins and outs of how he releases off the line of scrimmage. It's like,
one quick thing.
Yeah.
Netflix and HBO films, no more quarterback, tight end. Like, that would be the only thing for me where I'm like, I'll watch it. George Kittle. Like, I'll watch George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride. Like, that would be so much more interesting than Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah. Kirk Cousins washed ass in the second, season of quarterback. Yeah, nobody wants to see him hold a clipboard for a season for Michael Penix. I mean, it's such a nuanced position too, and good on them for really kind of like taking it to a level I don't think anybody ever anticipated. I mean, we know how valuable the position is now in the game, but how refreshing is it that this organization is investing in it almost to a point where you feel like it's a fault. Like we joke about it, 82nd overall pick, 3rd round pick. You used it on a blocking tight end, but before you very rarely invest in. If you did, they were bad investments. You went and you got Troy Nicholas in the 2nd round out of Notre Dame, and it's like it wasn't even worth it at that point. So for them to have a guy like Trey McBride, and it's not just Tip and Trey McBride. We have the video of Higgy Bear here, Noah, where he was on Trey McBride's Instagram. Let's take a look at this. Look at that. They're meeting the wildlife out there in Nashville. This is Higgy Bear. I saw another video where I think they're feeding more, maybe even some rodents. I mean, the Cardinals are making making themselves known down there. But man, like I like the dynamic. I like the diversity in that room. We talked about the safety room yesterday. You have to really feel confident that you got something in the tight end room.
I just don't think there's an absolute weakness on this team anymore. There's like, maybe if you want to say off-ball linebacker, we'll see what the free agents and if Cody Simon can come in and play meaningful snaps right away with Mac Wilson. But besides that, this team, would you say this is the deepest roster on paper in 20 years? Like, is it potential to say that? Like, I know the peaks have been higher for sure.
Yeah.
Anquan and Larry Fitzgerald, and like, it's always been top heavy. Always. Pat P and Chandler Jones, and then Budda Baker came in, and Antonio Cromartie that year, 2014 or whatever year it was. But like, the floor is higher than it's been than I can remember.
It's certainly 14-15, and it was a product of Bruce Arians and his connections around the league, and knowing guys who could come in and fit his system, fit also Todd Bowles' defensive scheme. Like, they had to weather the storm on a ton of injuries, and their depth kind of proved to be pretty impressive. But yeah, it's been far too long. It's never been the calling card of Cardinals teams, like a ton of depth. It's a lot of top heavy rosters, and no longer the case. I think that they've got an immense amount of, in different position groups throughout. Unbelievable stuff. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. Also subscribe to what's going on with Clancy on a daily basis. Locked on Cardinals, just like us, talking about this team on a daily basis. Follow him on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. It was great to catch up with him. Probably not the last time you're going to see him, as Johnny is taking a well-deserved vacation. But Clancy, man, thanks for joining me today, my man.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We will be back in action tomorrow. Our guy Cam Cox is going to stop by and test his chops as far as co-hosting on this show as we continue on. But make sure you're subscribed to this channel and don't miss out on any of the action. Go become a diehard for the low price of $36. That's $3 a month for the full year. Unbelievable deal. Go PHNX.com. And as soon as you're done here, flip on over to the NBA Draft Show. Our friends over at PHNX Suns, they are breaking it down, covering it so well. Can't wait to check it out myself. But in the meantime, we'll talk to you tomorrow, 4:30, right here at PHNX Cards.
We all silly like the mayor.